Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Hello dear students, welcome to another lecture. In this class we are going to begin with chapter 10 of class 7 Nagaland board. This is a grammar topic that we are doing by the name subject verb agreement. Now as the name of the chapter suggests, we are going to learn how in a sentence the subject should always agree with the verb. Now, what do we understand by this? Let's say if I give you the example, Parul are playing in the park. Or if I say, my parents is going for a movie. Now in these two sentences, don't you think there is something abrupt, there is something amiss which needs to be corrected? Absolutely. You look here in the first sentence, my subject is Parul. This is my subject, singular it is. And despite the fact that my subject is singular, I have used the verb are, which is used with a plural subject. So this is wrong. Similarly, with the next sentence where my subject is plural, that is my parents, I have used a singular verb, which is again incorrect. Therefore, dear students, in a sentence, the subject should always agree with the verb. And that is when the sentence is grammatically correct. So, in this chapter, we are going to learn all the rules that we need to keep in mind, which decide which subject is going to have what kind of a verb. Okay? So, the first thing that we should know in this topic, subject-verb agreement, is that the verb would always change with its subject in number as well as in person. What do I mean by that? If I talk about my subject, number means my subject can either be singular or it can be plural in nature. Right? Similarly, when I talk about person, my subject can either be feminine, it can be masculine, or it can be of neutral gender or even a common gender, right? So the verb of the sentence will always be used according to the subject. That means if the subject is singular, the verb will be singular. If the subject is plural, the verb will be plural as well. And similarly for the person, depending upon the gender of the subject also, the verbs are to be decided. For example, if I say, as I had given you the example, so Radhika has done her work. In this sentence, my subject is this girl, Radhika. And since she is singular in nature, that is why I have used a singular subject with Radhika, that is has, and not have. If I would have written Radhika have done her work, this is wrong, because with a singular subject, we always use a singular verb, and similarly with a plural subject, we use a plural verb. If I say, children are talking a lot, my subject is children, which is plural. Since it is plural, therefore my verb is also plural. I cannot use is in this sentence because is used with a singular verb. Is being a singular verb is used with a singular subject, and a plural verb is used with a plural subject. So the first thing we should all know, singular subject takes a singular verb, plural subject takes a plural verb. Okay. The second one is again the same that we have just discussed, as I have told you. We use the singular form of the verb with a singular subject and plural form of the verb with the plural subject. Now there is one more thing that we need to keep in mind when revising and talking about the rules which are stated above. If I write the sentence, Parul does not like chocolates, right? Parul again being a singular subject, I am going to use the verb which has an ending es with it. Similarly, Parul walks a lot, or Ritik dances a lot. So my subject is singular in all these three sentences, and according to the subject my verb has been modified. With a singular subject, the verb will have an s or an es as the ending, provided the sentence is written in the simple present tense. So when my sentence is written in the simple present tense, the verb will have s or es as the ending. Similarly, if I change my subjects, into plural, the same sentences that I have just discussed with you, if I change these sentences, if I change the subjects of these three sentences into plural, then what will be the sentence? What will the sentence look like? So if I say Parul and Pahi do not like chocolates. Here my subject is plural, Parul and Pahi, and therefore I have used do and not does. Similarly, if I say Mr. and Mrs. Sharma walk a lot. Again, my subject is plural. Therefore, my verb does not have an s or es at the end. Similarly, if I say Ritik and Karan dance a lot. So, plural subject, that is why no s or es added to the end of the verb. Therefore, dear students, my verb is always going to depend upon the subject, whether the subject is singular or it is plural, whether the subject is masculine or it is feminine, and that is what will decide my verb and the nature of my verb. Okay. The next you can see is a table which is obviously giving us more examples related to what I have already discussed with you. So this girl is very intelligent. Here my subject is singular, therefore is used. These girls are very intelligent. Plural subject, plural verb. That book was interesting. Again, singular subject, singular verb. Those books were interesting. Plural subject, plural verb. She has many storybooks. Again, a singular subject, singular verb. They have many storybooks, plural subject, plural verb, and so on and so forth. Moving ahead, the third rule says that we use am, was, and have with I, and are, were, and have with you. That means whenever in the sentence my subject is I, the only verbs that I can use with the subject I are am, I am sleeping, or I was sleeping, or I have done the work. Right? Similarly, with you as the subject, what are the verbs that we shall use? Are, you are sleeping, or you were sleeping, or you have done the work. Right? Similarly, you can see on your screens there are more examples which are given to further explain this rule. I am or was satisfied with him. You are or were satisfied with him. I have a good picture book. You have a good picture book. Right? Next rule says that we use have not or has not with the verbs given in this box in the negative as well as in the question forms. That is, if we are using one of these verbs with has not or have not, how do we make that sentence, or how do we use that in a negative or in an interrogative sentence? We do not have a college in our town. Since my subject is plural, therefore I have used do not, and we know that with we use have. We is plural, so my verb is also plural in nature. Similarly, if I talk about the next sentence, I shall have a lot of money next week. Again, with I, we have learned this in the modal verbs that with I, we always use shall, and have is used with I. This is what we learnt in rule number 3 as well. He used to have a nice bungalow. With used to, we use have only. We never say used to has. No, this is wrong. Similarly, if I give you more example, Meera ought to have a or an extra pen. So, if we use ought to or used to, we will always use have with it. Okay. Similarly, we will use have with all the modal verbs that we are using in the sentence after a subject. Similarly, with do, does, and did also, we use have, not has. Okay. So, if in a sentence, after the subject, we have do, does, or did, we will use have with it. Okay. If in a sentence, after the subject, we have a modal verb, then also we are going to use have with it. And if in a sentence, after the subject, we have words such as ought to or used to, then also we have we are supposed to use have with it. Okay. The next rule, before we move on to the next rule, we have some more examples. Does he have a new shirt? I would never say does he has a new shirt. No. Does, we always use have. Did, we always use have. And any modal verb we use have along with it. Right? So all these examples have very well told us how and where we are going to use have in the sentence. Next rule. If I am beginning a sentence with the word there, what happens in that case? In that case, obviously, when the sentence is beginning with the word there is not a subject. In those sentences, the subject is placed after the verb. Okay? What we've learned so far, that in all the sentences, the first position is occupied by the subject, then the verb, and then the object. However, if the sentence is beginning with the word there, the subject will be used after the verb. And in that case also, my rule remains the same. What rule? The subject will incline with the verb, or the verb will agree with the subject. What do I mean by that? If I say, there dash 10 pens in the bag, right? As I told you, the subject in those sentences where we are beginning with there is after the verb. So what is the subject here? 10 pens, which is plural. Therefore, I am going to use a plural verb in this sentence. So my verb did not agree with there. Rather, it agrees with pens. Okay. Similarly, if I say, there dash a monkey on the tree, right? Again, what is the subject in this sentence? A monkey, which is singular. Therefore, the verb that I will use is. There is a monkey on the tree. Similarly, let us look at some of the examples which are given in your book. There is no student in the classroom. What is my subject over here? Student. I know that student is written is a singular subject. Since student is a singular subject, therefore my verb was singular in nature. Second sentence, there are 10 students in the classroom. 10 students is plural, therefore my verb is plural in nature. There were pictures on the wall. What is my subject? Pictures, which is plural, and therefore therefore my verb is going to be plural, which is were. So in those sentences where the sentence begins with the word there, we have to look at the subject which is used after the verb. If the subject is singular, the verb will be singular. If the subject is plural, the verb will be plural. More examples are there. There was a clock on the wall. A clock is singular, therefore my verb is singular. There has been a mistake. What is my subject? A mistake, which is again singular in nature, and therefore the verb is singular in nature. There have been many mistakes. Now my subject is many mistakes, which is plural. Since the subject is plural, therefore the verb is also plural. It is have and not has. Okay? Next rule says, if in a sentence, if I say that if a sentence begins with it, okay, after it, whatever the subject may be, okay, we are going to use a singular verb only. it in itself we all understand is a pronoun, right? And it is used for a singular noun only. We know that when we replace nouns with the pronoun, a singular neutral noun is replaced with the pronoun it. So whenever a sentence begins with it, it will always have a singular verb after it. It was 9:30 at that time. It is raining heavily outside. It has stopped raining. It was raining, and so on and so forth. So it will always be followed by a singular verb. Okay? Now, the next rule says, if the subject has two or more singular nouns or pronouns which are joined by and. Two singular nouns or two singular pronouns joined with each other using and. In that sentence also, the verb will be plural in nature. For example, Rahul and Reena are singing. Two singular nouns which are joined with each other using and. Therefore, are is used. Similarly, if I say you and me are going for a walk. Full stop. Again, two singular pronouns which are joined with the help of the conjunction and. So when we join two singular nouns or two singular pronouns using the conjunction and, in that case, the verb which is used in those sentences will always be plural. Let us look at some of the examples given in your book. Rekha and Madhu are sisters. So, two singular nouns joined using and, plural verb is used. He and I were present in the meeting. Again, two singular pronouns joined with the help of and a plural verb is used. Fire and water do not change. Two singular pronouns joined using and. I have used do and not does. Are your father and mother at home? Again, father and mother, singular nouns joined using and. That is why my verb is plural in nature. So when two singular nouns or pronouns are joined with each other using and, the verb is going to be plural in nature. Okay? But if the noun that is being talked about in that sentence is representing one idea, okay, when you read those two words that are joined using and, are one idea, are one representation, are the same person, are the same thing, in that case my verb will be singular. For example, bread and butter is a wholesome food. So bread and butter, we all understand, is always used together, and this refers to one meal. So bread and butter is a wholesome food. Slow and steady wins the race. This is a proverb. Slow and steady wins the race. So again, when I am joining two words which talk about or which represent the same idea or the same notion, in that case, the verb following this is going to be singular in nature. All right?